Well, hello everyone. Here, show you right here. I'm talking about summer school though, and what does it usually mean whenever whenever they talk about summer school, and that pretty much means is toward that most of the schools are going to be open for any students who are trying to catch up with. I'm like, yeah, any sorts of activities, and it could also be related to about to whenever a lot of the kids that are trying to catch up with their schoolwork and also other activities going on. And I know most of the time it seems like it's all about activities going on at the schools that the teachers are going to be talking about. And so it seems like that some parents do sign their kids up for summer school just because for that reason, so they can catch up with their schoolwork. And also is if it's recommended just because the activities and all that go on at the school. And so, in case of any, I say that, yeah, well, summer school, because you hear about that. A lot of parents that sign their kids up for summer school for that reason, is mainly because is toward it, yeah, well, really, that if there's something going on at the school that the kids are going to be looking forward to most of the time. And if see, it seems like that's the case. So, in case anybody say that, yeah, whenever the president comes on TV and want to know just a little bit too, toward that, a few, I mean, I don't know about all parents, but some parents might say that they're going to go ahead and sign their kids up for summer school just because so that way their kids can catch up with their schoolwork, and then maybe if there's activities going on at the school that they're wanting to participate in. I'm like, oh yeah, a few friends of theirs or something like that, that's going on. But at the time, you want to know too is toward it, yeah, most of the time with summer school that there's going to be, if you want to kind of call it, it's like, yeah, there's going to be activities going on, but then like prizes or maybe about anything that they're going to be willing to teach your kids most of the time. And so it sure seems that way that, yeah, that's usually about 8 weeks, 8 weeks of classes, right? So I guess your summer school that for that reason why parents would sign their kids up for summer school, it would be 8 weeks of teaching the students, and yeah, the activities that go on at the school also. And so a lot of parents might even say that that's one of the reasons why that they're going to go ahead and sign your register for the kids that you go in summer school and all. But the way I think about it too, though, that when we think about summer school, though, it sure seems that way. That yeah, that's another way of how kids are able to learn just a little bit more about being interactive with other students, and then maybe that the sorts of activities that going on at the school too. And so I can say that, yeah, well, it's much warmer during the time around the summertime, and maybe that about how many kids there are going to be attending the classroom than compared to maybe last summer. That since schools are gradually opening back up, and I guess like this year that parents are going to probably say more likely say that. I'm like, yeah, if a lot of this virtual learning compared to going to the actual classroom. And so I guess they say that whenever students do wind up going back to school, and let's just say that they're going to be going and getting in summer school just because of that reason, because of all the time that they missed away from the actual classroom all during last fall and last summer. And that might be another reason why that quite a few students this year are going to be signing up just to be able to take a few summer school classes. And so that's why it sure seems that way that when we talk about the president talking about is toward the high speed internet, and then also other things that the parents you talk about for the kids for the children's IEP meetings. I'm like, oh yeah, for the grade book, and other things about that, the subjects and all. But a lot of times it sure seems that way that when we think about summer school, though, that we're pretty much thinking about is toward you have classes. Usually it's like Monday through Friday from like 8 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Usually so something like that to between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon that the kids are going to be going to school. And a lot of times people say is toward, yeah, well, most of the time that yeah, it's Monday through Friday that the kids are going to be going to summer school. And whenever they do go to summer school, that they're going to go ahead and be going to school from like 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. something like that, Monday through Friday, at least until July the 27th or something like that. So a lot of times, like and I know that a few parents this year are going to say that they're going to go ahead and sign their kids up to take summer classes just because that the activities are going on at the schools, and also maybe that just knowing about that they're trying to help their kids get caught up with any of the work that they missed from earlier, and then it could have been a teacher that recommended it, just because to be with their friends, a few friends that they decide to go ahead and sign up for a few summer classes too, and so it sure seems that way that with schools gradually opening back up, that about how many children are going to be attending summer school this year, and thinking as to where well, if you're going to be going to summer school this year, and do you think that maybe just a little bit the GPA scores are going to be just a little higher, and plus how well that the kids are going to be able to succeed if they were to be taking summer classes, but it sure seems that way that when we think about summer school, though, that in case of anybody that may, in case of the other kids will probably want to know too, that maybe normally that you would maybe be going to the pools, you would maybe going to the theaters, maybe to the parks, around the summertime. Other than that, if you don't get out of school until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But let's just say that like people might even say too that you're going to go ahead and take a summer class just because that try to catch up with any work that was missed from last year, but then also that the kids need to be put in summer school just because that maybe if it's recommended or anything like that. But I'll just say too that that with me though, that if we're talking about sisters though, like have right here for Vice President Harris right here, and anybody say is to word well anybody who if you're going to be doing any sorts of thinking about attending colleges or a community college at some point, and you're likely want to know too when exactly do you think that you'll be starting. And let's just say that if you start working on something maybe by June the 15th or something like that, maybe by June the 20th, and let's just say that if you'll know about whenever you start, and then this is the information about the school supplies that are needed and all that. So a lot of times that a lot of kids would probably say that the reason why that you would maybe participate in summer school is mainly because as to where that if for from all those weeks that you were out of school just because maybe due to virtual learning, and all the other students and parents might even say too that mainly because of the virtual learning, the virtual learning, and then also that if you're just wanting to get to know a little bit more of the assignments or the activities just a little bit. And I know a lot of all the other kids might even say too that really it's mainly about the activities, not just really because of if you're really falling behind on your on your scores, or I'm like if you're really falling behind on your IEP, I'm like on your grades or anything like that. But let's just say that that students, kids might sign up for summer school just because for reasons such as to where that number one, if they actually missed being in the actual classroom, and I guess that probably would be what you call most of the time is the reason is to where that if the students that miss being in the actual classroom, in the actual classroom, in the actual in the actual classroom, so instead of this virtual learning and everything, but still that at the time people may think too that is toward that virtual learning most of the time you could even have school on a Sunday afternoon, and you could also even have school on a Saturday, right? But still that with a lot of summer classes though, that people might think is toward reasons to why that you would enroll in a summer class just because that you have you have an older sister or brother that recommended it to you just because that if you were, I'm like, yeah, if you were trying to catch up, most of the time it seems like if, a lot of parents would maybe recommend it too, is to, if you're trying to catch up with a lot of the work that was missed from last year, and also that there, like, yeah, the activities, but then also, any concerts or events or maybe dances or anything like that. I'm like, oh, yeah, events and activities, stuff like that. So that's usually what I hear, but I just really think too that a lot of kids would say is toward after about maybe 8 weeks or maybe 11 weeks, even snow makeup days, that they want to go ahead and spend their summer, their 12 weeks of vacation, just to be able to go to summer camp or something like that, or if anything. They want to go out and go to a friend's house or something like that. Anything else that they want to do, for the summertime, go to the pools, and so it seems that way, that a lot of fun activities that go on during the summertime, that parents will want to know too, that yeah, well, that if anything, that you know if you had like an older brother or an older sister, that would maybe want to know too, that why do you think that summer school would be recommended, or why do you think that it would be required for any children or anybody necessarily? Like I say, that, well, really, that if it's really just to kind of get out of the house for a couple of hours or anything like that, anybody else is going to say anything like that. But still, that I guess from all the virtual learning and everything that's been going on, that it sure seems that way, that the parents might say that, yeah, well, the virtual learning, and then, but mainly, we're concerned about the fact about, due to the weather conditions also, that this year that there's been maybe a spike high to where that at least a lot of children were getting behind on a lot of their classwork and a lot of the help that they needed, just to be able to succeed. So let's just say that there's more staff, maybe more teachers, and maybe more counselors available at the school now, for summer sessions going on. And so that's why that a lot of parents might even say that if a lot of kids are still needing help to catch up with a lot of the work that they missed, and also that it could also be about is that around the summertime, that there's a lot of counselors available there at the schools, to where that if they want to talk at the kids or students or whoever that need to talk to the students about something. And so that's why it sure seems that way, that the summer school option here. And so a lot of times that we want to know too, that if you're going to be a freshman or a sophomore. But I know with me though, that I wasn't no summer school, but still that yeah, summer school for a college possibility. I'm like, yeah, in case if anybody may hear that, to word it, yeah, well, especially if it's going to maybe be a evaluation and also orientation. And so yeah, an orientation. I'll go ahead and mention that here. An orientation. Yeah, orientation. Orientation. Most of the time, what's a way of how to describe an orientation? Yeah, an orientation is introduction. Kind of like an introduction, but the word I'm actually thinking about is that it's basically one full week of tour that you actually meet the teacher, and meet all the other classmates, and also just kind of get introduced to all the work that they're doing there in the classroom and all that. And so it's basically like, yeah, like open house. And I can go and use that right there too. Talk about for open house. It's kind of like an open house. To where, yeah, I'm sure usually in August around it, for when school does come back into session and all that, and I'm sure a lot of parents will probably say too that that's some schools call that open house. To where that open house means is to where that, yeah, that teachers where parents and friends are all welcome to the school before, whenever school's getting ready to get back into session. And that's whenever that people are invited to come to the school, and they're able to walk into the classrooms and able to meet the teachers, and the workers and the faculty staff. And so yeah, that I guess that's really what that is right there, the orientation. And so whenever we talk about orientation, that people might want to know too that, yeah, orientation sometimes that they last for a couple of hours to maybe 3 days before the actual first day of school. And so anybody might even say too that, yeah, well, whenever you go to an orientation, that there's going to be like a paperwork, that there's like a booklet of paperwork or something like that. Maybe a book. They'll give you a book or a folder or something like that to study, and they'll tell you that, yeah, well, hey, how you doing? I'm your teacher, and this is the work that we're going to be doing, and so yeah, like a talk about for orientation, and so I know in orientation, and I know a lot of students. A lot of students might find that as toward, yeah, whenever you go to an orientation, sometimes orientations, people might even say that just like meetings, though, that whenever you go to those meetings, that sometimes that they're boring because all you just listen to is the teacher talking about stuff and, tell you that, okay, yeah, if you got homework, if you got homework for the weekend or something like that, but still, that parents might even want to know, too, that, really, that the first thing that the students are going to maybe be wondering towards, what does it have anything to do with what you're really interested in? And so far as the state requirements and what the schools are going to inquire and all that. But still, whenever it comes to the orientation, that's another way of how you're training. I'm like, yeah, it's another kind of like a training, but still that I know with me though that whenever if we're going to be going to an orientation, and they'll probably tell the parents though that first is the orientation, and then and then they'll say that the first day of class is not going to be within 10 days. So let's just say that they say that, yeah, the orientation, and which I'm sure the orientation for the summer school would probably be coming up probably by June the 10th or June the 12th or something like that, sometime like that. And you'll go to the orientation, and then they'll tell you about when the first day of school is going to be, and you'll be 8 weeks of school, before August comes around. And so the way I think about it too, though, that when we think about summer school, that we pretty much think about is toward summer. We think about summer toward it. Yeah, well, if you're going to be going to summer school, though, and a lot of students might even say that, like around the early morning hours between 7 to 8 a.m. and it could maybe be 100 degrees outside, and let's just say that maybe if they're going to be serving ice cream outside or anything like that, getting on a school bus and maybe anything that they're going to be serving in the cafeteria. So in case of a lot of teachers might even say that there's a lot of students that sign up for summer school this year just because that they're able to go into an actual classroom or just the activities that go on. And so I know a lot of parents might say that most of the time it's the activities, not really about, who's teaching and who's coordinating with this, activity. Or I'm like, yeah, mainly the activity, right? But still. And mainly, they try to catch the kids up. I'm like, yeah, well, the kids, though, most of the time, that if the kids are going, if most of them are going to be struggling with a lot of their math work or maybe anything, like social studies or anything, any other subjects that they're struggling with mainly, that parents would maybe recommend to put their kids in summer school just because that the more assistance is available, for on their schoolwork, about their schoolwork and all. And so that's why it sure seems that way, that if we kind of get that in mind toward that, yeah, if you have, an older sister or an older brother that's going to maybe say that, yeah, they get to go on that summer trip, the summer camp or something like that, and then you go ahead and then your parents put you in summer school or something. But still, I would say that tell people too that, yeah, well, people might say that you be compared to going to the movies and maybe going to the restaurants and all that, and then compared to having to go to summer school. And a lot of students might say that toward it, yeah, you're able to the things that you're able to learn while you're in the classroom, right? But still, but on the other hand, that it sure seems that way, that whenever we think about summer school, that we're also thinking about is that yeah, it's going to be 102s toward it, how comfortable that the classrooms are, and then people say that whenever you walk into the classrooms, a lot of times is that yeah, that if it's going to be nice weather though, that a lot of the kids are going to want to get outside more often, and maybe if they're going to do more outdoor activities more often, and so that's why it sure seems that way. That when we think about summer school, that how many teachers are going to be assigning homework too much of the time, and if anything, they'll say that no, mainly on Fridays that there's homework. So let's just say every Monday or so that there's going to be discussions about certain topics or so, and they're going to say that Friday is homework. Is homework assignments, and so a lot of times it's like teachers might even say that with their parents though that yeah that if you think about summer school though, that there's probably still going to be homework, and there's going to maybe still be work that needs to be done, of course, like almost always, right? But I guess the fact is that yeah, that if you're trying to catch up with a lot of the work that was missed from earlier in the year, and I guess a lot of parents would say that that's really, I guess the factor that matters is that if you're trying to get your children's a good resources, if you're trying to provide them with a real good educational resources from what those teachers are teaching there in class, and anything that was missed from last year, that they're saying is that this is how we're going to be reopening our classrooms, is that we go ahead and have an orientation of the summer classes, summer sessions, and then within the next week or so, then that's whenever the first day of school is going to be. So a lot of parents might say that yeah, well whenever you do start summer school, and then there's going to be about 8 weeks of classes, and then anything that they're going to be showing you and teaching you, and so it's like yeah, with schools opening up, that I guess you say that if there's going to be a lot of kids between now and till around July or August, that when schools come back into session, and they're going to say is that yeah, well first of all, people are going to maybe be warned to where, do you work there at the school, or are you just volunteering, or that, what grade you are in, or if you're a student or anything like that. But still, I just really think too that whenever it comes to school though, that you probably want to know too is to where that, yeah, you first seen advertisements about that in the catalogs, and let's just say, like the news, mainly the newsletters, the newsletters. So yeah, if you receive a newsletter, and I'll even tell everybody here that most of the time you see stuff like that on a newsletter. A newsletter is another way of explaining about is just toward yeah the about the school, about the business. I'll just say this, something like about the business. So it's typical newsletter. Usually you see those on the emails, or like they'll mail you like a brochure of what like open house and all that stuff. So yeah, it's basically to where the parents and parents and friends and family are welcome to come to the school, and you're able to take a look around the classroom. And then I remember that that back in the days, though, it was like, yeah, especially around August, though, you're able to walk into the classrooms, and you're able to see the desk and all that, the other students, and people want to know, too, that, yeah, well, there might be some students that they might say that, if you're looking forward to your first day of class, and, you don't really know very many other students there, but some might even say that, yeah, well, a lot of the kids that might know, they might be familiar with other faces, and so they say is to where that, yeah, just to get to know the classmates very well, and so that's another reason why that parents might say that, well, really, no, that has nothing to do with it, really. It's mainly because that knowing about whenever all the weeks or so missed from class from last year, also, but then one of the reasons is because is that that if more tutors are available and more teachers are available just to be able to teach their kids, and so maybe parents would probably feel more confident to where that they feel more comfortable to where they go ahead and sign their kids up for summer classes just because that if more tutors, if more assistance is going to be available, for the summertime. And the way I think about it too, though, that whenever it comes to understanding about the grade level, but still but if we're talking about with me though, that people want to know too, is to where if you were to get ready to take a test, and let's just say that if you try to assume what your score is going to be, say if you're getting ready to take a test, and a quiz, if you want to, some teachers call it a quiz, and try assume, if you don't do very well, and let's just say that try to assume that you'll get maybe a score of 30 points or something like that on the quiz. And so if it's a quiz, and most of the time with most test scores and everything, that test scores that whenever you do take a test, that you see about maybe 25 questions altogether on that quiz, and you have to get so many right just to be able to pass the quiz and all. But let's just say though that if you are going into that classroom, so that way maybe you can test a little bit of your knowledge and all that. But still, it sure seems that way that whenever you do take a test though, that you're probably thinking that the first thing and I can tell everybody here too, like it's always like a brain teaser almost every time, that whenever you're getting ready to take a test though, that if you don't really know, I'm like, testing the knowledge. Testing the knowledge. So even though that whenever you do take a test though, that whenever you get you might get some answers right, but let's just say that there's about maybe 25 questions altogether on that test right there. 25 questions, and usually that they'll give you about 30 minutes. I'm like, maybe even 15 minutes, just to be able to fill out the quiz. I'm like, some might say no, it's 11 minutes. So 25 questions, 11 minutes. You have 11 minutes to be able to fill in the answers. And so a lot of times it's like whenever teachers, and I know that a lot of times, and I know probably why they do it too, just a little bit, that's really about, it's whenever they time you on a quiz, so a lot of times it's like, is it really because that they're all in a hurry, just to be able to get the test, or just if it's really about as to where for how fast that you're able to figure out the answers that quick, or like at the best answer at the best of your knowledge. And any parents might even say that really that whenever you do take a test though, it sure seems that way, that there's something about the test that seems to be so totally different compared to the study guide, and half the time it's like, does that really give you any idea about what they're talking about and what it's for and all that? But really, do older sisters and older brothers, I'm like, if you have any brothers and sisters, any siblings that you talk to, and you're going to maybe want to talk to them about, test scores. And the first question that you want to tell them and ask them, test scores. Talk about for test scores. Test scores is that, what, the first thing that you're going to maybe warn us is toward that, even though if you studied hard, or maybe if you can figure out what the answer is, though, what is the most important key factor matter to remember, is toward that just kind of, think, mainly to think about, for what you can remember. For what you can remember. And most of the time, it seems like to me that, most of the time, if you are familiar with a certain question, and let's just say that maybe if it's multiple choice, and like all the other kids might even say that, most tests that are given, and not all kids, of course, are going to look forward to tests, because some of them are pretty challenging, and some of them you might say that you should be able to get all the answers right, and you should be able to do very well on that test. But let's just say if some parents might even say that if you don't do very well on a test or anything, and like yeah, you don't get that special treat later on or anything, but still that. But I know the way we think about that though is that with most tests though, that whenever you do take a test, and let's just say that if you just barely pass a test, or maybe if anything, that you wind up losing some points if you don't get the answer right, and so parents, I'm like, yeah, children are gonna probably be telling their parents is that yeah, whenever you do take a test and you don't do so well on it, I guess what's a good advice that maybe most parents could probably give to their kids is to where to do yeah, do the best you can. Yeah, and plus I can go and put a comma right there as to where that your ability to to recognize yeah, your ability to recognize your ability to recognize what what uh, what is taught, what they teach there. Yeah, what you're working with, and I guess for what you're working with. So that it seems like to me that that's really the key factor matter right there. Whenever you take a test, that they're wanting you to kind of memorize these notes right here, to where your ability to recognize what they're teaching there, but then also what we're going to be working with, and stuff that they would talk about during the orientation right there. Put that in the parentheses for what you're going to be working with. And so it sure seems that way that whenever you do take a test though, and sometimes it sure seems that way that each time that you get an answer wrong, and even though if you do take a guess on something, and I know a lot of times those teachers will probably say that it's not good to guess, but still, that parents might would say too is to where for what you're going to be working with, and a lot of times that's usually what they test you on. So it's like yeah, that whenever you do take a test though, half the time it's like the first thing that a lot of kids are going to probably be saying is to where that yeah, they find kids find tests and quizzes to be most complicated, mainly because as toward it yeah, mainly if especially if they only give you 11 minutes or so just to be able to fill out the answers and then give it back to the teacher, and usually that everybody say that yeah, for the most part that it's not really about okay if you like yeah you studied hard enough, but still that if you only have maybe 11 minutes just to be able to fill in those answers, and and they'll tell you that that once the timer starts, then that's whenever that you pick up the pencil and mark your answers, and then by the time the timer is up, and then you put your pencils down, right? Just like if we're talking about solving long division problems, any sorts of math problems or anything like that, and that's why it sure seems that way that for most test scores though that half the time that you probably think is to where if it's really good to go ahead and just look at the paper, and maybe if you're able to figure out maybe what the answer could be or anything, but still that like people say is to where yeah, most of the time tests are not really given to where just they say to where yeah, well, if you could figure out what the answers are, then people might even want to know too that that's not called cheating. That's just called just kind of giving you a better clue. I'm like yeah, a clue, or just to give you a hint on what the answer is, but still, teachers will probably say too that another way of how to refreshen the mind though is knowing that to where yeah, if you're going to be taking a test though, that a lot of times it's like people might say that is to where yeah, well, it would be nice if maybe every test that was given though, that there would be like stickers. There would be like a happy face or some sort of sticker that you will be able to put on that on the top of the test right there. Like before I take a test or something, before I take this test right here, I want to go ahead and include a sticker right there or a smiley face. And people may want to know too that, yeah, if you were to put that on the top of the paper, do you think that maybe you would be able to better get a better idea about, okay, the test right there, the test that test right there is going to include like something like, yeah, that the study review, right? And so it's like if you would put a sticker on the top of the paper there, or maybe on top of that test score, and people may want to know too, is to where if you do that, just because, so that way you can better, understand what the questions are, and maybe about what like what they're testing you on, and maybe easy, and maybe an easier way of how to be able to remember the answers. But some might even say that's called, like, no, well, if you want to kind of call it guessing. But still, teachers, a lot of times they say that we want you to think. Try to think. We don't want you guessing or passing the answers off to a few of your classmates. We don't need you cheating or nothing, but we want you to go ahead and think. Think and trying to concentrate on what the answer is, and so that's why it sure seems that way. That for the most time that. If you don't think that you're going to do very well on a test, and then some students that might get the idea to where that if you don't do very well on a test, and then what exactly, I'm like, yeah, you didn't do very well, but still. But on the other hand, that if you're getting ready to take a test, though, try to think about that to where that a good exercise. So to think about that is a good exercise, just to kind of familiarize. I'm like, yeah, it's an exercise. It's an exercise given, just to be familiar with what you're going to be working, what they've been talking about in the classroom there. So it's an exercise, and so you'll be surprised at what you can remember, even though that maybe if you're trying to, like, yeah, in case if anybody say that, what does it usually mean whenever somebody gives you a hint on something? Yeah, a hint. How many, like, yeah, it's another way of how you want to call it a clue. It's a clue, but if somebody were to say something like, a hint, it's something that you do. Every day whenever you show up for class, it's something that you put in your backpack every day. Yeah, something that you put in your backpack. Something that you put in your backpack. Every day after school. It's something that you put in your backpack every day after school. So I guess, in case if anybody may want to know too, that somebody were going to be maybe giving you, I'm like, yeah, easy to remember hints or anything like that, but still, clues or anything, but still, like, at the time, people may want to know too that, yeah, well, there's ways of how you want to test somebody on if you can remember the answer to that or not. But still, it's like half the time people may want to know too that yeah, the stuff that you use every day, and people test you, and like I say that, yeah, well, we do this every day. So if people were to ask you the question, you can't remember what the answer is. Well, how come you can't remember? Because we practice every day on what is this called, or what do we do when you'll be able to come up with that that conclude to the problem. It could be an English project or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, that's just a thing though, that whenever it comes to summer school activities though, and a lot of times parents might even say that yeah, well, whenever if the kids that need more assistance, that they need more help understanding some of their classwork and all that, but still. But on the other hand, though, that whenever tests are given, that sometimes I do get frustrated whenever that you try to mark an answer, and then they tell you that if it's right or wrong, and then but still that you would maybe think that to where that that you may take about maybe 5 seconds to read at the question, and sometimes you might need 10 seconds altogether. You might need 10 seconds just to be able to read the question in its entirety before you mark the answer, and just to be able to better understand what the question is. And so yep. So either way, it seems like it's a brain teaser either way. But even though that if you're being tested on maybe how to share face paintings or photos or anything like that, and you're probably thinking as to where that you would think that maybe tests would be a lot simple. Maybe if it had something to do with maybe baking cookies in the kitchen, or maybe baking brownies or anything like that. But like everybody else will probably say too, that it's a test. It's some tests that are given. Those answers might require they might require maybe a special clue or a special hint, or just to try to guess what the answer is, or the test the best of your knowledge. So a lot of times it sure seems that way, that for how well that you do. So it's like so the way we think about that, though, is that you do well on a test, and Mike, even if you don't do well, but still, that I just really think that that when we think about our grade reports, also when we think about students, though, that they're going to maybe say is toward that, yeah, I consider myself a sophomore, just because it's like, if that's not what it says in the papers or anything like that. The kids might even say that that what it says in the papers. I'm like, yeah, your GPA score. I'm like, but still, if it says on there that yeah, your GPA score, and so you, like, yeah, anybody might even say too that how would you know for sure? I'm like, if you were a graduating junior or a sophomore or a freshman, and more likely, though, it seems like to me that maybe every year that maybe people are going to maybe say is toward it, yeah, every year that you're going to maybe be looking at that and want to know is toward it. How do you know whenever you do move on to the next grade level? And say that they'll tell you, but when you'll be moving on to the next grade level. And so yeah, even though if you may think that if you wait a while for a good opportunity, and you want to know too, like what grade that you're in, even though if you worked hard on something, and you're just like want to know too what was counted for this testing, and then I'm like, yeah, but the way I think about it too, that most of the time with most summer schools, so they say that, yeah, it's mainly just to try to get all the teachers and parents, trying to get all the students all together, and trying to get the schools reopened, and going to the orientation, just to get to know all the students, trying to get them back in the classroom so that way they can teach them the reading skills and the writing skills, reading and the writing, and then the mathematics, that sort of stuff. Anyway, study hard. But the way I think about, though, that whenever it comes to summer school, though, that we can probably think about that too. Is that just a way of how you can give your good confidence to the students, like say to our kids, is that yeah, whenever you do participate in these summer activities, and then you can look at that to where that really, was it all that bad, or if anything that if it's just another way teaching is toward that, yeah, well, whenever you were, there might be some things that you do like about it, some things that you don't like about it. But some parents might even say that is toward it, that they'll go ahead and, if anything, they'll go ahead and sign their kids up for summer school classes, just because of knowing that there's other things about the teaching rather than the virtual learning. So whenever you actually go into the actual classroom, you're able to see the kids, and you're able to see the teachers and all. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.